Door growers to the Door Grow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing in business and life, and you are open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a door grower. Door grower property managers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management business owners and their businesses. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert, Jason Hole, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now, let's get into the show. And I'm hanging out today with Logan Breen of Virtually Incredible. What's up, Logan?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. So, in our topic today, we're going to be chatting about small business, big impressions, mastering customer service for a professional edge. So, before we get into that, Logan, why don't you give people a little bit of background on yourself? How did you get into property management, and give us some backstory?
Okay. So I'm third generation in property management myself. A lot of people might know my dad, Todd Breen. He is a pioneer in outsourcing in the property management industry. And I'm sitting today, I usually work from my home office, but I wanted to make sure I had a nice, bright background for our podcast today. So I'm sitting in our property management office here in South Florida. And, I grew up with my dad being a one-man show and running a small business without a lot of the automation and tools and outsourcing that has come with technology. And I can recall as a kid cleaning this same office with my sister if we wanted to use the family company vehicle. Part of our chores was to make sure all the office was clean. And we would see stress pills, and we would see a heart monitor, heart pressure monitors, and stress tea remedies all over the place. And we made a blood oath that we would never get into property management because it looked way too stressful. And now fast forward to today, she's the broker at our management office, and I'm helping hundreds of property managers across the US implement the same best practice strategies, outsourcing strategies to make life a little bit easier.
Yeah. All right. So what was the consequence of this blood oath?
I mean, blood oath is a little bit of an exaggeration, but we promised that we would not be in the family business. But you know what?
It's
a complex business, and we learned it, just through working with Dad growing up. We worked in a variety of ways in the management company. And with the tools of outsourcing and having a good team, it's not as stressful as it once was.
Yeah. And now you're helping alleviate everybody else's stress, so they don't need stress pills and wine as much.
Bingo.
All right. So Logan, so let's talk about this topic. Small business, big impressions, and I think when entrepreneurs are starting a business, they all want to appear big. They all want to, because their insecurity is they're small.
Yeah.
They feel small, and they're like, people are going to know that I'm small. And if they know that I'm small, they're not going to want to work with me and trust me because I'm small. I remember feeling that way when I started my web design business, decades and decades ago. And, and so I was like, I got to make this sound really big and really official. And solopreneurs, they're like adding the word group to the end of their business name.
Yeah.
There's no group. Right?
That's great. Yeah. No doubt.
Stuff like this. So what, besides, having, one of the things we would help with is we help them have like branding, website, like stuff to look like they are a larger, more established or more reputable company. And it helps trust. But let's talk about customer service. How does this really play into people's perception and trust. And as everybody's heard me say on this podcast a million times, sales and deals in this industry and every other happen at the speed of trust.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think you're right when you say that it's a mental thing as well, because there's benefits of being a small business and a
mhm,
level of personal touch that a small growing business can give somebody who's trusting you with their biggest asset. I mean, kind of depends on who you're working with, right? If you're talking about a big investor that has multiple, it's a pile of bricks that makes them a few bucks. If you're talking about somebody who, is an accidental landlord that's just trying to be financially responsible with this asset they're trying to hold on to, having somebody they can get a hold of, having somebody they can talk to. Those are all strengths if you want to do a concierge side of thing, but regardless of how big you want to get and what your goals are, it comes down to time management. And if you're doing the if you're getting if you're tripping over, what's that saying? Tripping over dollars to pick up dimes.
mm,
If you are letting yourself get bogged down on the stuff that you can delegate and the stuff that doesn't need your immediate attention,
yeah.
you're um, you're you're going to be limited on the big impact stuff that
Mm.
is that really deserves your attention and is really going to help you meet your goals.
Yeah, there's really this interesting dichotomy between the the cheapos, as I call them, that are
Yeah,
being cheap while trying to start a business in
yeah,
order to save money versus being smart and spending effectively so they can have even more money.
right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's there's definitely something to be said about being smart with your money. It can't be. It's something to look at. You need to monitor where your labor costs are going. For instance, one of the biggest things we did at our management company is we started looking into the labor costs in our leasing on a micro level, to where we're looking at uh, each property, how much it's costing to rent it, and the labor costs going towards it. And if you're not taking reports of your call volume per property, your super competitive properties are very likely exceeding your leasing fee, the labor cost to be able to rent them. So there's tools out there. In fact, that's one thing we do at Virtually Incredible is when somebody's using phone tenders, our 24/7 call center,
Mhm.
we give them a breakdown of their call volume per property. So that way you can look at, okay, this really competitive three bedroom is getting 40% of our calls. We need to yank the phone number right off of that sucker, because we're not going to make money losing money by exceeding our leasing fees on that specific one. And on the
Mhm.
opposite side of the fact, if we're getting a really low call volume on a specific property, that's a perfect opportunity to tell your landlord, hey, you're losing more money that this place is sitting vacant. But if you don't take the time to invest in these tools and these procedures, and you're just spending money blindly or saving money blindly by doing it yourself, you're going to be time poor. Time
Yeah.
poor is something you can't invest. You know what I mean? It's something you can't regain or build.
Yeah, I talk about 5 currencies. I learned this concept from Alex Sharfin, and, 5 currencies are time, energy, focus, cash, and effort.
Hmm.
And, you know, we have to invest some of these in order to grow and scale a business. And if you avoid investing cash, then you're gonna have to invest more time and effort,
Yeah.
right? And but I think one of the biggest secrets that we have at DoorGrow is instead of time management, we get our clients focusing on energy management. We get them
Mm,
focusing on which things give them life and energy and which things drain them. And the things that
yeah.
drain them are usually the lowest level tactical type of work. It's
Yeah.
not the strategic stuff of like planning and being a visionary and dreaming about the business. It's and learning new stuff. It's the stuff that's like detail oriented, nitty gritty, stuff that should be offloaded. And it's usually low dollar work, right?
Yeah.
And this stuff, I think the very first person any entrepreneur should hire, and usually they will get something the business needs, not what they need. They'll get like a maintenance coordinator or they'll get something. But I think the very first thing that every entrepreneur should get is an assistant for
Hmm.
themselves. They should take care of themselves and get rid of the stuff that's draining them, because then they have so much more energy. And I think the biggest challenge I see in this industry and in any industry is that usually entrepreneurs in the early stages try to build the business around what the business needs. They try to build the team around what the business needs instead of building it around what they need. And so then eventually they end up with a business that maxes out their level of miserableness.
Yeah,
And they have an entire team.
yeah.
So by default, that means they have the wrong team, because they should be getting more freedom and more fulfillment if they were doing it correctly. Even though they have more money, they have less of those things. And what we have people do to figure out what sort of assistant and what they could do is we just have them do a time study and put plus or minus signs next to everything. Like, does this give me life or take it away?
Right, right. I love that. And when people decide that they want to be an entrepreneur versus have a job and
Yeah.
clock it tends to be because they want the freedom and they want the energy, and then they end up giving themselves a job. And if you've given yourself a job, I wouldn't call that prime entrepreneurial. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it's so
uncomfortable. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's where you take the stress pills.
Delegation buys you freedom, and it's a skill set.
Yeah.
If your slogan is if it's to be, it's up to me, you're giving yourself a glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we're on the same page. I agree with you.
Yeah. So why don't you let everybody know, how do we master customer service for a professional edge? How do we, how do we solve this problem? Because customer service in this industry is generally considered to be pretty shitty.
Yeah, yeah,
Property management has a bad rep.
yeah,
And most property managers I talk to, especially the startups, and they always tell me, well, I started this business because I had some rental properties and all the other companies sucked in my
yeah,
market. But
yeah,
it's never them. Nobody ever thinks they suck. Everybody else sucks.
yeah.
So
Oh,
what do you think needs to happen there? Like,
I think
why is that?
it depends on your goals, okay? I mean, I talk to hundreds of management companies every month, well, maybe dozens every month, we'll say, on what their goals are with their portfolio. If
Yeah.
their goal is to have a not real demanding residual income to just kind of supplement a retirement or something like that, I would say, keep your current customers, your current clients, the owners happy,
Yeah.
and try to reduce turnover so nobody's losing money. If their goal is growth and building, then it's going to come down to um, meeting the needs of your market. Now, what we're seeing in most markets right now is that our leasing market is getting back to normal. Okay, and what I mean by that is
Mm,
pre-pandemic, we had these seasonal fluctuations
mhm.
where summer was red hot and fourth quarter and into the first quarter was a little bit cooler, and everybody tried to make their leases end in summer for quick turnover. And
Yeah.
then 2020 was dead, but then 21 and 22 was a red hot leasing season, and people kind of took leasing for granted, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it was going to move, right? I mean, in most markets, you were going to get that. And there's different theories as to why that is. I think part of it is people were a little weary to move if it was already in their agenda anyways in 2020 because they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But
Kinda
then
hunkered down and stayed put.
yeah, yeah, and then we had like this super surge of a lot of different areas, and people started working remotely, so they weren't really considering in 21 and 22 necessarily geography distance between them and their careers, because a
Mhm.
lot of people remote work went way up. So I think that kind of played into it as well. But this is the first year that I'm seeing that we're back into this seasonal dip where people are having long times on market and fourth quarter, which to me is kind of signifying business as usual again. But a lot of people, in my opinion, treat leasing as their redheaded stepchild because it's when it's a healthy season, it's something easy to overlook. As long as screen the applicants appropriately, everything goes well. But when a leasing season gets tight, that separates the men from the boys, if you will, on how you're going to do it. Because when somebody's showing up and they need a property manager, it's generally not because they have a awesome tenant that's paying rent on time in place and they just are looking for somebody to split the money with. They're
Mm,
looking for somebody who's going to give them a good long-term return on their investment. And in when they're deciding who they're going to park their best investment with, they need somebody who's going to answer the phone and really juice every bit of leads when these tight leasing markets are happening.
mm.
And then, so that's kind of one aspect, and then the other aspect, Jason, and I know that you know this. In fact, we've talked about this before, but somebody who dumps a bunch of money into getting management leads, but then lets those leads go to voicemail.
Yeah.
It's like cranking your AC all the way down and leaving the windows open. It
Yeah, that's a good
doesn't make
analogy.
sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So we do a secret shopping campaign where we call management companies across the US and we document how many of them answer the phones. And we call as both an owner and as a prospective tenant. And even for owner calls, which I would argue if scaling or even maintaining a door count matters to you,
Mm,
then management leads matter to you. And less than 50%, in fact, I think it was even less than a third. It's been a minute since I've looked at the numbers, but less than a third of people are answering that line live. So it's not really hard to stick out and do well, but if you're bogged down saying, I don't want to spend any money, and if it's to be, it's up to me, and I'm the only person that's going to run the show, then you're limited, and you end up letting the what you consider low importance tasks fall off.
mm.
And then, the cycle of suck that you just mentioned, that nobody can answer the phone, give me good customer service. I'm going to start my own management company. You'll end up doing that to yourself.
Yeah. It's a cyclical thing because if they're spending money on marketing
Hmm.
and they're not answering their phones and a lead's only good for maybe 5-10 minutes max,
Yeah,
and then it drops like, I don't know, 80% in conversion rates, right? So
easy.
then you're right. It's like leaving the window open with the AC on. And then because they're spending all this money on marketing and they're allowing these leads to fall flat and they're not getting a good ROI, they're spending a bunch of money. I mean, some companies spend 20, 30% of their revenue. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of property management companies that don't even have that percentage of profitability in their business. And so they're wasting money on marketing. They're not answering their phones. And then that's going to lead to a lack of cash flow. And a lack of cash flow means they can't hire good or enough people. And then there's bad customer service.
Hmm.
And then it makes the problem worse. And so they start, and for some reason, they just bounce around like this rock in a tumbler rolling at the bottom
Hmm.
when they could be flying, like, they could
Yeah.
be a lot better. And so that's interesting. So I'm curious what else people that you're talking to are seeing right now. Are you seeing people, in some markets, I've heard some complaints that it's becoming more and more difficult to get renters,
Yeah.
while others I think are like have a scarcity of property. And I think maybe it could be due to, like, migration. There's been a lot of migrating happening due to, from COVID, people gravitating towards states with more freedom, more
Yeah.
red states. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as far as the limitation of properties, that's going to vary a lot more market to market and a lot
Yeah.
more. I think that the higher interest rates on sales and deflating what sale prices are is going to lead to more people holding on to their investments to regain their equity again, which I think will, you know, circumvent any. I think that'll bring that back around. If somebody's
Yeah.
having a hard time finding accidental landlords who, I'd say the majority of our clients, I have people that work with hedge funds and people that work with big time investors, but I would say the majority of our clients, our own management company is kind of designed on the one off, two off, handful, maybe three, four units that somebody is a small time investor. And I think that for us has always been a good long term strategy of somebody just being happy at splitting their money with and getting rid of the headache with a property manager. So on that side of things, I think the interest rates are going to bring that back. Now, when it comes to the leasing leads, yeah, I do think politically and stuff like that that likely has a lot to do with some of the inflows and stuff like that. But I think that we're getting back to the norm of people don't want to move during the holidays, especially you get up north of Interstate 40. That'd be brutal to move, in the winter up north during the
Mhm.
holidays and in that time. And I think we're getting more into the steady flow. um, I'll tell you, with leasing, I think that's a more quickly moving market, which
Yeah.
is why those call stats that I mentioned before are so important. Like down here in Florida, we've had huge influxes and huge rate increases on both rent and own, and purchase prices.
Yeah.
And
Austin.
yeah, yeah, and being able to see the call volume in real time per property
Mm.
allows us to really make micro changes in what the market's doing on a seasonal basis and all that.
Yeah, and that's from calls coming in on these vacant properties or up for rent properties that your team are fielding. So this is an advantage to using Virtual Incredible is that you get data and metrics and insights that you just probably wouldn't be able to gather otherwise.
Oh, I mean, yes, it's a perk that we use. I mean, I'd imagine that somebody could make a system to do it. That is a big perk that our clients enjoy. Yes, is that they get a call breakdown for their leasing calls per property and for mainline calls per caller type. For instance, at our own management company, when we first started looking at our mainline calls, we noticed that current tenant calls made up almost 50% of our call volume. Meanwhile, we're using cutting edge management softwares with tenant interfaces. The tenant, yeah, gosh, why is that slipping my head? Anyways, the
Yeah,
tenant
like
interface
tenant portals. Yeah.
portal. That was what I'm looking for. Thank you, portal. Uh, and yet, people would still rather pick up the phone. So we took that insight and we created
Mm.
a newsletter that said, um, you know, hey, it's in your best interest to be communicating with us in writing. In reality, it's in our best interest too because we're saving on the labor costs and the time management and all that comes with it. But
Yeah.
we were able to reduce that down to 12 to 15%. And if you're not looking at those stats, you're not looking at the opportunity to save on the labor cost.
Yeah, it's interesting because phone calls are probably the biggest source of interruptions and the biggest source of staffing expense in a property management company.
Yeah.
And we've been able to cut some of our clients' staffing costs in half just by convincing them to not do phone calls and to figure out ways to do things through text and email so there's a record kept in a lot of instances. Now, and I've read some books
Or
on customer service recently, and nowadays people do prefer to be able to self-serve. Like that would be better, but they always look for whatever's easiest. And if they can't figure out how to self-serve easily or they don't know, they're just going to pick up the phone because making a
so,
phone call seems like the easiest option. But a lot of people, especially the younger crowd today, they don't like talking on the phone to human beings.
automation shakes hands with customer service, right? So the more that you're able to supplement a do-it-yourself, frequently asked questions, texting, whether it be, any interface like that with portals is absolutely great. And it
Yeah.
allows you to have the budget for the customer service where it matters. For instance, you mentioned earlier a management lead goes down in value. You say in 5 minutes, I say in the moment that the voicemail is hit, the moment. Because if it is a referral that you're getting, maybe that person wants to work with you more than anybody else. But if you're just a company they found online due to whatever marketing, advertising, you have good reviews, that'll be a plus, obviously. But if they hit a voicemail, the immediate thoughts that they're thinking is this company still taking on more management accounts?
Yeah.
Is my property even gonna be a fit to their portfolio? If it's hard to get a hold of them right now, is it gonna be hard to get a hold of them about my investment later? And
Yeah.
they're thinking all of that while they're scrolling down to the next lead and calling them.
Mhm. Yeah.
So having, yes, I think that having the do it yourself is key to be able to have the budget to put the customer service where it really matters.
So, what are some things that property managers can do based on what you've seen to improve their customer service directly? And then, what are some ways in which Virtually Incredible could help do that?
So it's going to depend on the goals, and it's also going to depend on their size. Okay, so usually one of the first questions when I'm sitting down with a potential new client, and I'm doing a outsourcing consultation on what
Hmm.
would be best for them, is I get an idea of their team size, their door count, and their goals. So the two options that we then discuss from there is either phone tenders, which is our 24/7 property management call center that's divided up into three departments, where we have a leasing call center where we pre-qualify, answer questions, and schedule showings. We have a main line where we answer any call with custom scripting and escalation that would come into a management office. So we have custom scripts for current owners, current tenants, applicants, vendors, whoever would come in, and however we can best assist them, answer their frequently asked questions, and escalate them to the right person if that's what they end up needing. Um, and then we have the emergency repair where we're available for after hours maintenance emergencies to qualify the emergency and troubleshoot it with them over the phone, seeing if we can delay it and that sort of thing. And the cool part about that particular service is the minimum subscription cost is $97 a month, and you have 24/7 coverage on all of these departments, and then based on your usage, it can go up from there on a per minute basis. So somebody who is really wanting to grow, doesn't have the need for a full-time person yet, and
Hmm.
really wants to grab time management and grab control of their life and their work life balance, that's a great first place to start. Uh,
Nice.
then from there, if you have an idea that, okay, I've got all my systems in my head, I really need somebody who isn't just fielding these calls for me and helping me with time management, but I need somebody who's going to help me in executing processes and taking the process from what's between my ears and making a policy, procedure, and systems. Because
Hmm.
I'll tell you right now, you know, most people that start their management company from the ground up, it all starts right here. It's
Yeah.
all going to be between their ears, and it kind of is like it's all. If it's to be, it's up to me because it's going to take longer for me to train somebody how to do it than it is for me to just do it myself. That's
Mhm.
all the limiting beliefs that I find a lot of people who have not mastered the power of delegating. You know, are that's what's blocking them. That's what's limiting their imagination here. And so what we do is we train each one of our virtual assistants how to take a screen recording, and we give all of our clients a subscription to Screencast-O-Matic or Loom or some other screen recording tool where they just demonstrate a process over the computer, and it hooks up to their microphones. They dictate anything they're keeping in mind while demonstrating that process. And then our virtual assistant will review that video, create a step-by-step outline, and then file it in their network next to the video to create a handbook process and procedure on everything they're doing. And it serves as a point of reference for our virtual assistant to be able to refer to later, or it as this person scales, whether it be in their own whether it be locally they scale, or you know remotely with remote team members and virtual assistants. This serves as a starting training manual on everything that they do. So
Mm.
we're helping them bring everything from here and lay it out to really get over that hurdle of scaling.
Yeah, I think it's important to get that first level of process documentation uh, done. And a lot of entrepreneurs mistakenly think they need to do it
Hmm.
when they're usually the worst person to do it. And so
Right?
it just show somebody how to do it and record it, then they can give that to them and then give them the challenge of creating that process documentation. The second level after process documentation, level two, is like process checklists. This is where you're using maybe a tool like Lead Simple or Process
Hmm.
Street or something where now people have to run through some steps and check things off to complete a process. And the third level is something like DoorGrow Flow, which is a visual workflow. And it has the ability to have checklists, but it's something that everyone understands. And
Hmm.
it's a lot more intuitive visually. And workflows are how humans think about process or flow charts. And so you're
Yeah.
basically building a flow chart to build your processes. And what's cool about that versus checklist is that building, and anyone can check this out at doorgrowflow.com. This is new. But if you're following the process visually and you map it out that way, it's super intuitive. Everybody on the team understands it. And it doesn't have to just follow a linear path because a lot of processes in property management are not just linear. There's
Hmm.
things happening concurrently. So there might be decisions to be made. And building that stuff out in checklist based software is really complicated. You have to be
Hmm.
like a systems nerd. And then once you build that, no one understands it but you when
Right.
you build it. But if it's visual, it could be like, do they have pets? Go down this path. No, this way. And
Yeah.
then back together. And then like, and so you can do more complicated stuff and everybody can look at it and go, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Getting that systems out in a way that's navigable by everybody else. I'd say that's the biggest hurdle to scaling.
Yeah. So, yeah, in order to scale rapidly, you need a really good process system. You need a really good people system for hiring. And if you don't have that developed yet and you're playing Russian roulette, it's good to start with some agencies to get help, right?
Yeah.
Like Virtually Incredible. Your first initial hires, you're going to learn a lot just by working with agencies like Virtually Incredible because they're going to walk you through the process. They're going to ask you a lot of questions, things you haven't thought about yet. They're going to help you avoid some of the common pitfalls and mistakes. Like I call it the clone myth, where everybody, when they're starting out, thinks they need to go find themselves.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
find a clone. And later they learn that in order to actually duplicate yourself as an entrepreneur who wears every hat in the business, you need like 10 people
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
actually clone yourself and not do anything. Right. And so that's the clone myth. But then, yeah. So I think getting all these things mapped out and then being able to get the help that you need early on, then you can graduate to having your own hiring system if you want to, but you're going to need really great people to help you run that as well. So,
So when you're doing it yourself, when it comes to hiring somebody remote, there's a couple big pitfalls that I make sure to talk with clients about because we have recruit direct options too, to where we let that. So there's traditional virtual assistant placement is basically a version of a no compete contract, right? It's a staffing company that says the staffing company, I want to be the middleman forever and ever. Amen. You'll never work with this person except through me.
yeah.
And then over the last few years, we've seen an evolution to like a recruitment to where somebody helps you pick, the right person and helps you with all the different processes, maybe some of the training, and they do an initial upfront fee, and then you pay that person the hourly rate that they take home.
Yeah.
And the pitfalls with that is there's only so much that's in their control after they hand you the wheel, right? So they give you like a 90-day warranty on turnover, and if uh, hit bumps in the road and lose the person after that, well, start from scratch. You've got some of the training materials. Here was a list of best practices. Good luck. And
Yeah.
so that inspired our hybrid model, which is that people are welcome to work with our staff member as long as they like through us on a month to month basis. And if they ever decide that they like their person, but for whatever reason they'd like to take advantage of the savings and work with the person directly, or they don't see the value in the different tools and free replacements that we offer. They're welcome to take that same person they're experienced in working with, and not only will we allow them to hire that person direct, but we will coordinate it with them, and we will have an orientation, and we will walk them through the process of offboarding from Virtually Incredible and onboarding directly with them, some best practices. And we do it at a discounted rate for the longer that the person has worked with that person through us.
Got it. So the longer they're, you know, using you as an agency to have this team member, the less it costs to kind of buy out their contract or to have them just move over to paying you directly, right?
And even less they have to pay if they use the promo code DoorGrow, where they get 5% off on the hourly rate and the per minute rate.
Yeah, there you go. Say that discount again.
A discount promo code is DoorGrow, DoorGrow. And if you have any technical difficulties, just talk to Logan, and he'll make sure it's applied for you when you're doing it. But it's pretty simple. There should just be a spot for it.
Cool. So get your discount. So yeah, if you're in the early stages, you haven't had a lot of success in hiring, or you've been around for a while, and I've seen larger companies, they're still playing Russian roulette when it comes to getting team members. I don't, and if you have not successfully had several experiences yet in the outsourcing, getting people from Philippines or Mexico or anything else, I highly recommend to anyone listening, you leverage an agency. They're going to help you manage that relationship. They're going to help you manage cultural differences. They're going to help you make sure there's a stronger level of accountability, and they're going to and they back it up that if you need to replace the person, they can help you do that quickly. Because there's a lot of potential pitfalls, a lot.
There is, and one of the biggest ones that I see people that they just haven't even thought of is with the growing industry of freelance work and
Mm,
Fiverr and all these other things. You don't want what I would call a mini entrepreneur or a freelancer, somebody
yeah.
who's building their skill set and then is going to just keep their resume out for a couple bucks an hour more than what you're paying them. Because I don't care whether you're talking about hiring somebody local or you're talking about hiring somebody remote. Turnover is the most expensive part of staffing.
Yeah. I want to own the team members' attention if they're on my team. And so one of the
Yep.
biggest challenges I'll see when people are hiring freelancers, and I've hired lots of different types of people, right, in the past from lots of different areas. And I've learned the costly mistake of hiring people that are not focused on your business. If
Mhm.
somebody's a freelancer and they're working maybe part-time for you and part-time for somebody else, they have their primary focus is getting jobs.
Yeah.
Their primary focus is their own life and business. Whereas if they are full-time with you or dedicated just to you, even if they're part-time, because that's all the bandwidth they wanted to focus on, you have their full attention. Their focus becomes your business, which is what we want. We want them to be focused on our business to help us improve our business, not constantly working on their own agenda and their business. And that's the big differentiator that I've seen. And I want team members that are thinking about DoorGrow in the shower. I want team members that are giving me their discretionary time because they believe in what we're doing and they're excited about it and they're doing something that they enjoy doing, right? I want them to be a culture fit for DoorGrow, personality fit, and for the role, and a skill fit, meaning they've learned what they need to do in order to be successful. And then we're winning. And I think that's the greatest secret in business, is that it doesn't matter how many processes you have. It doesn't matter how many KPIs you have. It doesn't matter how many metrics you throw at your team. If you want a team to perform well, it doesn't even matter how much money you throw at your team members. A lot of entrepreneurs mistakenly think team members' behavior will improve if they throw more money at them or bonuses, and that actually tends to go get worse for most team members. Except maybe entrepreneurs and salespeople. Most people don't actually deep down like money. I know that sounds crazy. And so we need to make sure that we are building an effective team. An effective team is the secret sauce to having great customer service. That's the secret sauce, is to have a great team that buy into you, believe in you, and are not just what I call a hider employee, where their secret goal is to do as little as possible if they could get away with it,
Yeah.
get paid as much as possible if they could get away with it, and complain about you and live for the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you one of the first things I ask in an interview, regardless of the position, is what motivates you.
Mm,
And it's super important to be able to speak somebody's motivation language. You throw money at somebody who cares more about work-life balance or who cares about commendations. I mean, a lot of people on my team. Well, we make sure that everybody's very well taken care of, and money is not overlooked by any means. But
yeah,
uh, reassurance, and it's no secret that we do the majority of our hiring out of the Philippines. And one thing that is a beautiful thing about their culture in the Philippines is how naturally it meshes with customer service and the wanting to please.
yeah,
Okay. And in fact, one of the training modules that we have is that your job is not necessarily your identity, which means that when you have a tenant that is so frustrated because when they moved in and just spent all this money and it wasn't exactly how they wanted it, or something happened and they feel that breaking their lease is the way they need to do it, and they want everything the way they want it when they want it. um, you know, we found that a lot of our really rock star virtual assistants that were just great were getting high burnout because their level of empathy with these people and having to
it's like
enforce
too high. Yeah,
was just hurting. I mean, crying. And so we have a, hey, you're not your role. And when you're at home and when you're with your family and your friends, we
yeah,
love your culture and what you're driven to just always be such a helpful, great person, and do that when you can. But it's okay to say no, and it's okay to enforce policies and to not take that
yeah,
personally. And until you understand the nuances of the culture that you're working with, if you're not working with a professional who has a leadership team that shares that same culture and values, you're gonna have burnout that you don't even know why you're burning out, because you'll hear, oh, I have a sick relative. Oh, I have to go move and I have to go take care of this and I can't work with you anymore because I don't want conflict and I don't want you to feel bad about yourself. So I'm going to tell you that I have to leave because of something that's out of
hanging
your
out.
control and in my life.
Yeah.
And so people are sitting there beating their head against the wall, not knowing
They're like,
why.
"Why do I keep losing all these Filipino team members?"
Yeah.
And they're all having all these problems. No, it's the problem's you, and you need to be a better boss, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
culture in a team and in a business is everything. You cannot have a good team you cannot have a great team without great culture. Like that, and culture means you shared values. You have to find people that share your values. Otherwise, you have hiders, and
Yeah.
hiders are trying to get money from you and do as little as possible, and or they're going to quit and leave because they don't believe in you, they don't believe in the company, they don't believe in what they're doing. You need believers. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Logan, this has been fun. um and you've told us a little bit about phone tenders, you told us about your mainline service, the emergency repair service line. It sounds like it's pretty affordable for people to get started. How can people reach out to Virtually Incredible and find you guys?
So info at virtuallyincredible.com, Logan at virtuallyincredible.com. My direct line is 561-323-7039. I should be a better person and know our mainline office number, but I'll answer that one too.
Yeah.
But it's on the website, virtuallyincredible.com. And if you are interested in the idea of outsourcing and you're not really ready to talk with somebody about it, but you're just kind of curious, if you go on our virtual assistant page, we have something that's pretty interesting. We have a list of people. These are not examples. I'm not just shining up our brightest and best and have a sample of resumes and voice recordings. We have a live list that's updated automatically every 10 minutes with candidates that are ready to get started and have already started training. And there's voice samples where you can hear what they sound like, and there are their resumes where you can see the different experience and stuff that they have, and then there's a little note that mentions, based on our experience, what their ideal role would be.
It's
And
like a
so,
catalog of humans. You can just like go on there and like listen to them, and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
it's just a job. Yeah, it's something that these people have already been vetted. We've already done all the background checks. We've already validated their resume, contacted their previous employers. And so, if anybody on that list looks interesting,
Yeah.
then reach out to me. We'll chat about it, and we'll start talking about scheduling interviews.
So go to virtuallyincredible.com and start window shopping
Yeah,
some virtual team members. All right.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Logan. Appreciate you being here on the show.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you having me.
All right. So if you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to grow your business, you want to add doors, you want to figure out when is the right time to hire, how do I scale my team? How do I start adding and scaling doors without wasting any money at all on advertising? How can I do this? We have clients that are scaling rapidly. We just need really good property managers. So if you feel like you're a good property manager and you just need the right system, we've got the system, and we call it the DoorGrow Code. And the DoorGrow Code is our roadmap and our system for scaling businesses. It's like a martial arts style belt system, going all the way from white belt, stepping onto the mat with your first door, to yellow belt with your first 50 doors, on and on until black belt, 1,000 doors. And we confidently know that we can get you to 1,000 doors in the next 3 to 5 years, even starting from zero. If you will follow the code and do what we say, you can do this. There's really only two ways to 10x the growth in your property management business. That's through acquisition, or that's through doing our strategy of organic rapid growth. It's not going to be through advertising. It's not going to be through cold lead marketing. It's not going to be through SEO or pay-per-click or content marketing. So if you want to 10x the growth of your business and be like one of our recent podcast guests, Kent Hardman, who went from 0 to 100 doors in 6 months, investing only 10 to 15 hours a week, 2 to 3 hours a day towards making some phone calls using our strategies. We want to help you grow. Reach out to us. We can help you scale your business. And if adding more doors right now sounds uncomfortable or not fun for you, it means like if you add another 100 or 200 doors, it would increase your stress level, then you have a business that's not scalable. So reach out to DoorGrow. We can help you turn this around, turn around your team, and turn this into a scalable business. You probably believe what we call the process myth, but it's not true. You don't just need more processes. You need a better team. And we have a whole training on this. We're happy to give to you for free. Just comment on any of our social media, the word myth, or say you would like our process myth training, and we're happy to send you that for free. It might blow your mind and change your thinking forever. So reach out to us. We would love to help you figure out how to get more leads and how to solve the process problem in your business. And you will become infinitely scalable, and you can grow rapidly, and just like our clients are doing. So we'd love to support you and help you out. Reach out to us at doorgrow.com. Bye, everyone.